Translator, Dark Angel. Editor, Kurisu. With two girls in tow, one tall, one small, Ling Han set off upon the road leading to Extreme Yang City. Hu Nu and Helian Shinshui were born as if destined to clash. They quarreled over food, quarreled over who was allowed to cling to Ling Han, and now Hu Nu had finally encountered a truly worthy rival, for Helian Shinshui's appetite was in no way inferior to her own. Moreover, Helian Shinshui was innately powerful, and so in most confrontations she actually managed to seize the upper hand. Ling Han summoned Naji Yan once more for questioning, and only then learned that the Helian royal clan truly possessed the bloodline of real dragons. The imperial clan of the Central Sea held the purest lineage of true dragons. The Sea Emperor of every generation ruled over all four seas and was genuinely worthy of the title of Emperor. Beyond that, none of the royal clans of the four seas were insignificant. They too bore the bloodline of true dragons, merely of slightly lesser purity. No wonder. Ling Han nodded inwardly. He cultivated the 9 Dragons Tyrant body art, and once it reached completion, he would wield the might of 9 true dragons. Why were true dragons used as the measure? Because among divine beasts, true dragons possessed the most terrifying physical bodies. Since Helian Jun Shui carried the bloodline of true dragons, even if it was not particularly pure, her physical strength was unquestionably something to fear. Hu Nu was a freak in her own right, yet the disparity in their cultivation realms was simply too vast, making comparison impossible. After all, even Ling Han himself, despite cultivating the 9 Dragons Tyrant body art, was still unable to do anything to Helian Shinshui. At present, Helian Shinshui was like a sheet of pristine paper, upon which one could freely inscribe as one pleased. Ling Han did his utmost to allow her to experience joyful things. Even when she bickered with Hu Nu, it was merely playful squabbling, not the kind of mortal enmity that ended in bloodshed. By comparison, Hu Nu seemed far more like an adult. She never cried nor threw tantrums. Helian Shinshui, on the other hand, cried easily and made a fuss at the slightest provocation. She clearly possessed frightening brute strength. Yet the moment something displeased her, she would widen her eyes pitifully, looking as though tears might spill at any instant. She had grown addicted to acting cute. On their journey north, they passed through Fallen Moon Gorge. Given their speed, there was no need to spend months on the road before reaching Extreme Yang City. In just 10 days, they once more arrived at this ancient city. Previously, they had traveled at full speed, passing many cities without even entering them. Thus, upon finally stepping into the city now, Helian Shinshui immediately became animated, her eyes darting everywhere as she took in the surroundings. Cotton candy? She bought it. Sugar figurines? She bought those too. A bamboo toy horse? That as well. Ling Han could only follow helplessly behind her. Paying as they went, this sea girl had plunged headlong into play. As she ate, her laughter rang out with unrestrained delight. Childish! Hu Nu snorted in disdain, completely forgetting that she herself was clutching a sugar figurine and licking it happily. Yi, where did this little girl come from? She's so pretty. Helian Shinshui was like a sprite, beautiful and imbued with an exotic charm, naturally drawing countless gazes. Very quickly, she attracted attention. A pampered young master stared at Helian Shinshui's lovely face with lecherous eyes, saliva nearly dripping from his mouth. Yet when his gaze drifted downward, intending to at her alluring peaks, he froze and hastily shifted his eyes back upward. What a pity. She was flat-chested. Helian Shinshui tilted her head, looked at him, and asked with mild confusion, "Why are you blocking my path?" The spoiled young master chuckled wickedly and said, "Little girl, come back with me. Let's have some fun." Clearly accustomed to getting his way, he waved his hand and ordered, "Take her." "Yes, young master." Immediately, 4 burly servants stepped out from behind him, each one fierce as a wolf or tiger. Helian Shinshui shrieked in apparent terror and hurriedly hid behind Ling Han. Given her speed, there were scarcely any who could catch up to her, and even if someone truly did, so what? With a single shove backed by her monstrous strength, even Ling Han's bones would likely snap. She possessed terrifying power, yet deliberately pretended to be weak. Did she not fear heavenly lightning striking her down? Ling Han mocked her act inwardly, then turned and said to Helian Shinshui, "Look at what this trash is doing. This is called relying on power to bully others. See, girl, Don't you think people like this are truly detestable? Helian Xunshui nodded vigorously and patted her chest. Still shaken, she said, "Detestable. He nearly scared me to death. So we can't behave like this kind of person, right?" Ling Han continued to coax her gently. "Right, we can't behave like this kind of person." Helian Xunshui nodded again. "But we also can't allow trash like this to bully us. Remember, we don't go out of our way to provoke others. That wouldn't be right. But if others provoke us, we can't hold back either. When it's time to strike back, we strike back. We aren't punching bags, understand?" Ling Han went on. The explanation was a little long, leaving Helian Xunshui somewhat dazed. Yet out of habit, she still nodded and replied, "Right. Who the hell do you think you are, daring to meddle in my affairs?" The spoiled young master barked angrily, both shocked and furious. He waved his hand again. "Beat this man until he's crippled, then bring the girl back to the residence." "Yes, young master!" The 4 servants charged forward once more. Ling Han flicked a finger. A flash of energy split into 4 streaks, each striking a servant squarely on the forehead. Instantly, poo, 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 bloody holes opened in their brows, and the 4 collapsed lifelessly to the ground. You dare! You even dare to kill members of my Zhang clan?" The spoiled young master shouted, rage and fear mingling in his voice. "Who even knows who you are?" Ling Han flicked his finger again. "Pa!" The spoiled young master followed the servant's fate, a bloody hole appearing on his forehead as he fell stiffly to the ground. The surrounding crowd retreated in alarm. This matter had escalated terribly. That was a young master of the Zhang clan, yet he had been killed here in broad daylight. The Zhang clan would undoubtedly erupt in fury, and anyone still present would surely suffer grave consequences. They had better flee at once. Yet Ling Han was utterly unconcerned. In the north region, there were pitifully few who could make him wary. Besides, did he not have an incomparably powerful sea-race princess at his side? If necessary, he could even let her treat this as training. "Let's go." He continued toward the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Meanwhile, Helian Xunshui and Hu Nu, one on each side, each clutched one of his hands. Before entering Extreme Yang City, Ling Han had altered his appearance, disguising himself as a young man in his mid-20s. This startled Helian Xunshui slightly, yet she still pierced through his disguise at a single glance. Evidently, even though she had temporarily forgotten how to circulate her origin power, her perception had not diminished in the slightest. It remained frighteningly sharp. The Spirit Treasures Pavilion stood at the very heart of Extreme Yang City. Even with all their wandering and play along the way, they still arrived before it roughly an hour later. "Stop right there!" A group of people rushed over. It was clearly the Zhang clan. Upon learning that one of their clansmen had been killed openly in the streets, they naturally hurried over, seeking revenge. How could Ling Han possibly pay them any attention? He stepped straight into the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Hu Nu, however, turned around and stuck her tongue out at them. "Damn it!" The Zhang clan members roared in fury. The 2 most powerful forces in Extreme Yang City were the Spirit Treasures Pavilion and the Alchemist Society. Who would dare stir trouble within their walls? They could only wait outside. Ling Han couldn't possibly hide inside forever. Ling Han and the 2 girls entered the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. At once, a beautiful female attendant approached and asked in a clear, pleasant voice, "Honored guests, are you here to purchase something?" Hu Nu was instantly dissatisfied. Hands on her hips, she declared, "Nu is here too." Ling Han laughed and said, "Pass along a message to Ying Hong. Tell him someone has come to fulfill an agreement." Translator, Dark Angel, Editor Kurisu. May this humble one presume to ask, does young master perhaps bear the surname Han? The female attendant inquired with cautious courtesy. "I am Han Lin." Ling Han inclined his head slightly. He had long since arranged with Ying Hong that he would appear under the name Han Lin. "So it truly is young Master Han." The female attendant's eyes lit up with pleasant surprise. "Young mistress has been awaiting your arrival for quite some time. Please follow me. Young mistress has given strict orders that the moment young Master Han arrives, you are to be brought to her at once." Ling Han nodded calmly and allowed the female attendant to lead the way. Guided along winding paths, they soon reached the courtyard where Ying Hong resided. The female attendant stepped inside first to announce their arrival. Yo, I say, young Master Han, you've finally shown yourself. Yinghong strode out, her full and alluring figure brimming with mature charm, enough to make one's gaze linger unconsciously. She swept a glance toward Helian Chunshui and could not help but freeze in astonishment. Then she laughed and said, Young Master Han, you truly are impressive. You've only just captured my dear Schwanner, and now you've gone and captured another beauty as well. Am I Mr. Han, or young Master Han? Ling Han naturally ignored the implied insinuations and calmly shifted the topic. Yet Yinghong refused to let the matter drop, wearing a sly, teasing smile. Hey, I really do look forward to seeing how you'll explain all this to little sister Schwanner later. Is it truly proper for you to deliberately sow discord like this? Ling Han asked. I have ample bosom. Of course I can. Yinghong replied shamelessly, without the slightest embarrassment. A female hooligan. At that moment, Helian Chunshui could not help lowering her gaze to her own chest, a strange look flickering across her face. Could it be that Ling Han kept criticizing her because hers were not large enough? She turned to glance at Yinghong once more. Indeed, those were towering waves, far beyond what she herself could compare to. Secretly, she resolved that she would properly train her pectoral muscles in the future. All right. Little sister Schwanner has already waited for you for many days now. Yinghong waved her hand and changed the subject, her eyes sweeping cunningly over Helian Chunshui. She clearly anticipated, with no small amount of relish, the daggers-drawn scene that would erupt once the two girls met. She led Ling Han and the two girls into the courtyard, then dispatched someone to summon Zhu Schwanner. In just a few short moments, a fragrant breeze swept through the air. Zhu Schwanner appeared, her face once more concealed beneath a white veil. Though her expression could not be seen, boundless joy and surprise shone unmistakably within her eyes. For a peerless beauty, even a single glance was enough to ensnare a man's heart. "Big Brother Han!" she cried out, leaping forward and intending to throw herself straight into Ling Han's embrace. Pa! Before she could land, both her arms were yanked backward at the same time. Moreover, it was not one person restraining her, but two, Hu Nu and Helian Chunshui. "I won't allow you to touch Nu's Ling Han," Hu Nu fumed angrily. "Who are you?" Helian Chunshui, meanwhile, was carefully sizing up Zhu Schwanner, her expression equally unfriendly. Before they departed, Lu Yutong and Li Xichan had filled her head with all manner of warnings, such as never allowing other women to draw near Ling Han, otherwise they would steal him away. From the moment she opened her eyes, the first person she had seen was Ling Han. Much like certain creatures that mistook the first living being they saw at birth for their parent, she clung closely to him. Thus, she was naturally vigilant. She would absolutely not permit any woman to snatch Ling Han away. Zhu Schwanner was stunned. A jealous Hu Nu alone was already more than enough. How had another tall girl suddenly appeared? And why were this woman's eyes blue? They looked strange, yet possessed an oddly captivating allure. "This is Zhu Schwanner, a friend," Ling Han explained to Helian Chunshui. Oh. Helian Chunshui immediately released her grip, but Hu Nu deliberately wedged herself between Zhu Schwanner and Ling Han, her expression clearly declaring, "Don't even think about getting close." Zhu Schwanner could only suppress the yearning in her heart, gazing at Ling Han with eyes filled with tender emotion. She truly was too beautiful. That single look alone stirred ripples within Ling Han's heart, igniting an impulse to push her down. "Tsk! I say, little sister Schwanner, you're already calling him Big Brother so quickly?" Yinghong chimed in from the side, shuddering exaggeratedly. "I'm about to die from all this sweetness." "If you don't speak, no one will mistake you for a mute," Ling Han said with a faint smile. "What's this? In my own territory, you won't even allow me to speak?" Yinghong snorted. Fine, but shouldn't we be setting out soon?" "We've all been waiting for you. Now that you're here, we can depart." Though she said they would leave immediately, they still spent several hours making preparations. Setting out for the Middle State to participate in the Spirit Treasures Pavilion competition was no trivial affair. How could they simply leave without due arrangements? Naturally, everything had to be prepared in advance. Their conveyance was an extraordinarily luxurious carriage. Not only were there chairs and beds within, it was even divided into 3 separate compartments. During the day, they could sit in the first compartment to converse. At night, the women slept in the second, while Linghan alone occupied the third. The north region was vast, vast beyond measure. Merely traveling from extreme Yang City to the border between the north region and the middle state required over 10 days, and the middle state itself was even larger. To journey onward to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion headquarters located in Million Treasures City would take another 20+ days. The entire trip would consume at least a month's time, and that was only because their carriage was exceptionally fast. Otherwise, had they been using an ordinary carriage, even 8 or 10 years would not have been considered excessively slow. However, just as they stepped out from the Spirit Treasures Pavilion, they were confronted by a group of men with fierce expressions blocking their path. Yinghong was taken aback. Right at the entrance of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion, someone dared to bar the way of her. The young mistress? What audacity was this? "Brat, surrender your life!" As soon as Linghan emerged, 5 gleaming weapons were brandished toward him. "How dare you?" The Spirit Treasures Pavilion guard immediately moved. With a single sweep of his sword, ding, 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 the 5 weapons were sent flying from their owners' hands. The Zhang clan members were instantly enraged and shouted, "This brat killed our young master!" Previously, he hid within the Spirit Treasures Pavilion, and we gave you face by not forcing our way in. Now that he has come out, do you still intend to shelter him? The guard merely sneered coldly. What a bunch of fools. They actually dared to make a move against the young mistress's honored guest. They truly were courting death. A mere Zhang clan, possessing only spiritual ocean tier cultivators, actually dared to argue with the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. "Scram," he barked coldly, killing intent surging forth unrestrained. "Persist any further, and I'll slaughter every last one of you." The Zhang clan members naturally refused to back down and began shouting angrily. Even the Spirit Treasures Pavilion cannot act without reason. After killing our young master, you still dare to flee so brazenly? Hand over the criminal. The guard sneered again and drew his blade. A pack of blind, reckless idiots. Shua, shua, shua. After cutting down several of them in swift succession, the remainder were terrified out of their wits and hastily turned tail, fleeing for their lives. Linghan and the others paid the incident no heed whatsoever. A conflict of this level was nothing more than child's play in their eyes. The carriage rolled forward, setting its course toward the middle state. Linghan reclined comfortably inside. Hu Niu perched upon his lap, cracking melon seeds between her teeth. She guarded him vigilantly, leaving Zhu Xuaner not the slightest opportunity to draw nearer. "At first, I was worried you'd be hunted down by the masses and wouldn't be able to represent our side. I never imagined you'd possess such ability," Yinghong said, staring at Linghan with a shocked expression. Linghan smiled faintly and asked, "Has anything major happened recently?" "Yes, something definitely has," Yinghong replied at once.